Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Expedition Northwest Passage is a very odd game. I feel like, first of all, I feel like this game should just be called Northwest Passage. And that's what it is in my head. Whenever I have to look it up on BGG, the expedition comes first. But, okay, putting that aside, this is a game about taking your ship and your sled out through the icy waters, trying to find the Northwest Passage and get back, all the while doing that, finding locals and finding resources and making sure that you get back so you don't have negative victory points. It's kind of interesting how the sun is going to move around, so at certain parts of the game, which you can plan for, it'll be frozen or unfrozen with the water. When the water's frozen, the ships can't move and the sleds can go over them. When it is not frozen, the ships can go through, but not the sleds. So your sleds start out in the ship, and you have to kind of strategically get the sleds down because it's going to go across and eventually melt everything and try to get to that Northwest Passage that will score you points. In addition, you'll be meeting locals, which just give you victory points. You gotta kind of this push and pull of how many actions you want to spend doing some of those oddball things or side jobs that will give you victory points versus pushing to the Northwest Passage will give you a great deal of points and then getting back to where you started. And there's only so many actions in this game. You're only going to be able to do so many things. So somebody might, and many players may not even reach Northwest Passage. It is a hard-won road if you can make it there. And some things have to fall in your favor, which I'm sure is exactly what they were doing in real life when they were going through this process. So the game works in that regard. The problem that I had with the game is I didn't find it very interesting. It was always, here are things that you can do to score. In my gameplays, which I know I'm going to get some heat for this, I found probably getting to Northwest Passage to not be a dominant strategy or something you always want to push for. If somebody's going there and they got a lead, you might want to hold back and try to get points elsewhere. Now that's a problem for me because the game is centering you towards Northwest Passage and you do get quite a bit of points for getting there, but I almost feel like the game isn't what I wanted it to be in my head, and you shouldn't penalize the game for that, but when I'm playing this game, everybody wants to race there because it seems like what you should do, but holding back can be a viable strategy also. It is really fun, you might get your sled stuck where you can no longer move it, you got to get your ship down there, you're wasting resources, you're wasting actions, and that's kind of where this game plays. And this is where you plan for the best, hope you can make it, and sometimes you're just going to come up short. With that regard, I feel like this is a very strong game. I feel like there's a certain sect of people who are really going to like this game. It just never had that big moment to me. I played this game probably 6 or 7 times, and it never jumped off the table. It was like, man, that's why I'm playing this. Instead, I always felt like I was just meandering on, doing the same thing over and over again, and hoping my strategy plays out. I think I just wanted more, and what I wanted more of was fun. I felt like everything else was here. You got the set collection, you got the Eskimo people you're going to be finding out, you got the race to get the Northwest Passage going on, you're going to get more points if you're the first one there, then you're going to be racing back, am I going to get back? And so that's tension and stress. The frozen thing, I like so much in this game, but when you put it all together, it just didn't work for me. I was like, this is a really good game. This is a really solid game, but I wasn't having as much fun as I wanted to have with the game, and I kept finding it over and over again. It does have tile placement in the game. That's something I really don't like in games. You have a lot of options. There's always things you can do to fit, so you're never going to be stuck. And you can draft what's up there, and it can kind of help you plan out what you're going to do. I'm not a big fan of tile laying games. I think it works in this game pretty well. This is a game where everything works. It all comes together in a package that works, but it just didn't strike a chord with me, and for that reason, I will be purging this game. Here's Expedition Northwest Package. You have a very beautiful box art here that kind of shows the iceberg with you going through it. And this really is the game with people on the ice. Excellent. Excellent. Although the colors are a little bland, they could have popped a little bit more. I do like this box art. Inside, you're going to get some player aids. These are thicker than most, I'll be very honest, although they're not, your board type. But there's pretty much a lot here. It tells you what you do on the actions, the scoring. There's a lot of information on here, but they do it very, very well. Get the rulebook, which we'll take a look at in a few. You're going to have a different rulebook in another language. We'll get the board, which we'll take a look at. Then you're going to get these tiles. You can kind of see. Sometimes they can be a little tricky to play on the board, but you have these tiles that you'll have. You're going to have a bag, which is humongous, with some artwork on it, which you'll put the majority of the tiles that you'll be playing and drawing from. And then you're going to have a number of wooden components and these very, very small little tiles that you'll be putting out. Everything in here is fine. When you're on the table, it's a beautiful game in its own right, but I wouldn't say it's something that pops off the table and makes you take another look at it. Now let's take a look at this board, which is a very functional board. I do like this board quite a bit. So you're going to be building tiles going from over here to here. And you can see the point variage on it. Tells you how many over here, the points based on the number of players. It has a place for everything and the scoring down here. There is some artwork on the side, maybe some wasted space, but it really does. This is something you just place tiles over, but it really does give you a feeling. I wish there would have been an arrow here showing you which way this went. Otherwise, a pretty functional board and a fairly good job. Here's the rule book. Here's your component list. I don't like this because it doesn't have pictures of what everything is. You can have it set up and a little bit of picture here with arrows going to it, which is appreciated. Then when you open it up, it'll kind of tell you how things move in a game cycle, and then it'll go through the actions with examples over here, which is really, really nice. And then you're going to have the action list. This is what you can do on a turn. These are things you can do, including passing, and the examples are always right here on the side, which is great organization. Then you're going to have kind of the gibberish here about some things that you need to know and the end of game and final scoring. And then the flip side of this is just a different language. So this is all it is, just a couple of pages right here, which is mostly just your possible actions. So here's the game that's set up for a two-player game. You have your ships there. You're going to have 4 random tiles drawn from the bag. You're going to have all the little squares in their order. These are not random. These are set up. You're going to have the sundial here. And then you're going to have the victory point markers, depending on how many players, and they're listed right here. So this is a two-player game. What you're trying to do in this game is score the most victory points. Normally, you're going to do that by finding the Northwest Passage and getting back. That's normally how you're going to score points. The game is going to end after 10 rounds or when both people get back to Greenland. If you get back to Greenland and the game is still going on, you will stop playing and everybody else will continue until the 10th round or everybody gets back. Once everybody gets back, you add up all the victory points. Whoever has the most is your winner. So one thing that's going to happen is this little thing is going to move around the board. You're going to see that it has a blue on the top, which will always say up, and the sun on the bottom. This means, and wherever this line is, behind it has melted. There's no ice. The water can be utilized. Anything above it is frozen. So as it moves up, everything here would be usable and passable by the ships. The ships can use all the water. As it gets down here, this line right here would delineate that below it is water the ships can go through, but everything above it is ice, and this thing will move around the board. When it gets back here, it's the end, and that signifies the last round of the game. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this player board. When the game starts, everybody's going to start out with 7 people, and you can utilize those to take action. The actions are listed at the bottom of here, but I'll go through them in a moment. I just want to give you a general overview. So every time you use somebody, you put them down at the bottom, signifying that you've used this, and he's kind of done for the round. This right here would be anybody that's on your ship, and this would be anybody that's on your sled. So for an action, maybe if your sled is on your ship, you can put some people on your sled, and then utilize this to move this sled around, and these guys would be on your ship. Now, if the ship and the sled ever get separated, then you can't use an action to move these back and forth because they wouldn't be at the same location. You can always pass earlier, but if you don't have any people left, then you would have to be passed, and you would know that because these would be empty. Now, on the side here, just kind of tells you end of game scoring, and these are your possible actions. For now, we're going to set this aside, but know that any time that we're taking an action, I tell you it takes 2 workers, that means you'd be taking 2 workers and moving them down here, signifying they've been used. So for your first action, which will cost 1 crewman, you can utilize one of these big tiles, or you can take any of these small tiles and add them to the board. Now they do have to fit, so ice has to match up with ice, so this one is not going to fit there. So let's say you wanted to put this here, all the water would add up, all the ice would match, so that would be a placeholder. Then you would pull another one from the bag and you would put it up here. So for the first action you can do, and it costs you 1 crewman, is you can pick up one of these tiles and just put them in your hand. The same type of action, but for 2 crewmen, you can completely wipe this out,
put them aside, draw new tiles from the bag, put new tiles out, and then draw one for your hand. So that's a possible action. The third possible action for the cost of 1 crewman is you can put a tile down on the board. Now it's important to note that when you put a tile down, it does have to match all of the sides. Water has to watch water, and ice has to go up against ice. So in this case, maybe a tile like this would fit perfectly. If you place a tile down like this and it has a picture on it or an icon, then you would take one of the tiles and you would place it on the icon for reasons explained later. Now at this point, it's showing everything below this is water, so that for the cost of 1 crewman, you can move your ship 1 tile. Now, if your sled is out, then you can move your sled across ice. So this is ice up here because we see that even the water is frozen over. So for the cost of 1 crewman, the sled can move from tile to tile up there. The ship could not go up there because it's frozen, but the ship could move maybe down to this tile or over to this tile for a cost of 1 crewman per tile. Now, if your ship and your sled are on the same location, then your sled would be on your player mat. So let's say you had a situation like this, where your sled and your ship are on the same one. You can expend 1 crewman to move as many of your crewmen over to your sled as you want. Now, these are considered on your sled and not on your ship. If for any reason you wanted to move them back to your ship, you would spend 1 crewman and move as many over as you would like. Now, there will be spaces with this icon on it where you'd put this chit on it. If these are on the board, you can come take this chit. It would cost 3 crewmen. Now, this chit is considered on the water, so a ship or a frozen sled that can go over frozen water could come get it, but it would cost you 3 crewmen to come pick that up. Now, the reason why you will be collecting these kind of chits that you'll see here, whoever at the end of the game has the most will get 11 points. Second place will get 5 and 2, and that's the same for all the chits that you can pick up on the board. So this is another way to score points by having the majority or second majority or third majority of those tokens. Now, if you wanted to pick up one of these land-based ones, that's easier to do as it only costs 2 crewmen, but you would have to be on that tile. So this ship could not pick it up. If he went over here to this tile spending 1 crewman, he could then pick this up for 2 as he's next to it. The final action you can do is pass. And whenever you pass, your token goes into the first available box. And then at the end of the turn, after both people would pass, these would slide up, and whoever passed first would become the next first player. That's how that works. If somebody was to make the Northwest Passage, the first person there would pick up whatever the largest victory point token is worth. Same thing when you get back. If somebody were to get back, if you were to just jump on this and jump back and that was the end of the game, then you would score the 6 points. Now, these modifiers will be in effect, so whenever you pick up these tokens, you will always modify the points that you're getting for them based on the modifiers that are here. So if you look here, you can easily see that picking up one of these blue ones is worth 1 point when I pick it up, if I'm in that first area. If I'm over here, they're worth 3 points. These land-based ones are worth more points if I pick them up over here than I would be on this side of the board. But these, even though they're worth less points, give me end-of-game scoring, where these do not do the same for me. At the end of the game, if you get back, for every ship or sled that does not get back, you will lose 2 victory points per crewman on that. So sometimes it's tough to make it back by the 10th round. You just be ready to lose some victory points. You'll make some hard decisions about whether you want to go after something or where you want to spend your time to maximize your points. Do you want to do it here where there's a 1 multiplier, or do you want to quickly shoot out here and spend a lot of time getting times 3 modifiers, knowing that maybe at the end of the game you wouldn't get as many points, or you would lose points based on how many crewmen you did not get back? That's Northwest Passage. You play 10 rounds. Whoever has the most victory points is the winner.
You should buy this game. I think if you're the drier Euros, I think you'll like that. I think the theme works with this. I think the mechanisms work with it, how you're finding out where to lay the tiles, and I think how far you're pushing yourself, and you put more people on the sleds, or you put your people on the ships. I think all of that works really, really good. I'm surprised this game didn't find a larger audience, but after playing it quite a few times, I just feel like it's missing that spark that I'm wanting in a game. I would say, look, if you really want a racing game, but you want something that's more than just throwing down dice, this is probably it. Although many people probably wouldn't list this as a race game, it really feels that way. With that said, I would also say this is probably a try before you buy. Check this one out. Unless you look at it and it's just like knocks your socks off, I would say try this one out before you purchase it. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel, lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.